Hi everyone! According to data of the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, there are about 5,500 accidents involving birds and planes every year. Poor fluffy kamikaze. They probably are not very happy to share the sky with winged metal monsters and getting to know their stiffness. But what happens with them? Can a bird cause a plane crash? What is used to protect an airliner from this kind of incident? Be patient, my friends, for we are going to tell you right now. So, what happens if a bird strikes an aeroplane? Let's find out. Most accidents happen during takeoff or landing, and that's quite clear. Birds do not like getting too close to outer space. They're more fond of flying under the clouds. 75% of all the crashes happen at an altitude of up to 1,000 feet. 20% at an altitude between 1,000 to 5,000 feet, and only 5% at an altitude beyond 5,000 feet. Also, birds do not strike the cockpit very often. This only happens in 12% of the cases. In 45% of cases, they get trapped in the engine. While designing the engines, developers obviously consider the possibility of a crash, but there's a point when even the best of mechanisms stop working. Probably one of the most famous incidents involving a bird is this. It happened in 2009 in North America. A US Airways Airbus took off from LaGuardia Airport in New York and collided with a flock of birds. As a result, both engines failed, but the pilot, Chelsea Sullenberger, brilliantly executed an emergency water landing on the Hudson River, saving 155 people on board. There's nothing to say except, good job, dude. In such a situation, most people would panic, but this fellow is a real hero. In theory, Airbus engines are supposed to withstand collisions with a bird weighing up to 4 pounds, so you shouldn't be afraid to strike a couple of crows or seagulls, or maybe even a chicken. But according to one version, this particular plane ran into a flock of wild geese, each one weighing about 9 pounds. Now, many of you would probably go, WTF, why don't you just put a protective screen in front of the engine? Well, actually the answer is that it's not possible. The problem is it would block air inflow to the engine, and it would have to be really solid, because if it doesn't withstand the stroke, not only bird parts, but pieces of metal would get into the engine, and it would fail. Here are the calculations. At a pace of 200 miles per hour, a plane and a seagull would collide with a force of 7,000 pounds. Now, if the bird weighs the same and the plane flies 1.2 miles higher at a pace of 430 miles per hour, the strike would be 3 times heavier than a hit from a 30mm caliber projectile. It's very dangerous as well when birds get not in the engine, but in the spinners. That happened to a plane in December 2004. A jetliner had to perform an emergency landing in Mumbai. After landing, the passengers could see the 5 feet dent under the cockpit, and also the breach and cracks all around the nose. So, talking about modern engines, the two that are currently used, this is what we have. If a bird gets into the engine, then your chances are 50-50. In other words, if it's a small bird, you have nothing to fear, but a big one can make the plane crash. What happens here is called a compressor stall. It occurs when there is a disruption or breakdown of airflow through a turbine engine. It can end up with blades separating from the compressor, a fire, or the engine breaking into pieces. The other type of rotor, the turboprop engine, is solid enough to withstand a clash with a bird, if it's small, but they can still fail. In such a case, birds don't plug the engine, but they can bend or break the blades, and again, the engine would stop working. But in spite of all that we've said, there's no reason for anyone to ring the alarm and refuse getting on a plane. The engineers are really precautious, so even if one engine fails, the plane can still carry on using the other engines until it lands somewhere safely. There's almost no chance for all the engines to fail at the same time. Besides, it's worth noting that practically all the airports in the world are fitted out with special systems that keep the feathered guests away. Sometimes they use bioacoustic installations, reproducing sounds which frighten the birds. Other times they use harmless but very noisy pyrotechnics, and the most eccentric ones use hawks and falcons to scare out the birds. We wish you safe flights, and hopefully your biggest trouble on board would be passengers with crying babies, and not harakiri birds, although who knows which is worse.
Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks, and we'll be right back to you as fast as we can.